Hi guys, welcome to another video on the channel. So I just got back from the UK National Championships and I wanted to do a deck profile. So going into this format and going into this National Championship, the big decks were obviously things like Cool Tune and the branded deck, but also things like Doomsy, Power Patron, and even Elf Note and Elf Note variants as well. But I didn't like any of those decks, so I decided to play Malice. And so I'm going to do a Malice deck profile today. Um, I want to talk a little bit about the event because obviously I had a great weekend. I felt like we had a great weekend, me and all of my friends that we all went together. Um, Made a lot of new friends at the event, which is fantastic because ultimately that's kind of what I do the hobby for. I do it for the enjoyment, really. I didn't do very well at Nats. I did end up dropping at the end of day one. Um, but it is what it is, and like I say, I had a blast. I really enjoyed playing this deck, so no regrets with the deck. I just think, obviously, I think one of my weak points as a player is in my technical play. I think my deck building's usually fairly solid, although there are a few choices that perhaps I might change going forward in the format if I continue to play Malice. But yeah, without any further ado, let's just get into the deck profile. I'm going to be careful with my microphone. So obviously, playing Malice, we play maximum number of Malice names. So Dormouse, the White Rabbit. This is the new print of White Rabbit from Rarity Collection 5, which I really like. She's saying time, time, time on the card, which is really cool. It's a reference to the source material, I think, Alice in Wonderland. Although I actually don't know anything about Alice in Wonderland, but yeah, it's a cool print of this card, really cool. Nice to play that new version of it from Rarity 5. As I mentioned, so maxing out on the Malice names, 3 Chessy Cat. It's your Pot of Greed. It's a really, really strong name. Really good that this card's at 3 in TCG at least. And then the 3 March Hare. So I actually felt like cutting this down to 2. I've seen some other lists cut this to 2, and certainly siding for going second, I strongly considered cutting this to 2. But I got quite heavily reprimanded by other Malice players that I spoke to at the event for suggesting that, and they say, no, 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 it's a 3. You have to be playing 3. So yeah, we'll see about that one. Yeah, it's fantastic, of course. And now for like the kind of pseudo extenders. I was on a package of 4 bestials. So I tested the numbers for the bestials in the deck quite a bit in the lead up to the event. And I just felt that 4 was a really nice sweet spot. Sometimes in testing, I would end up, when I was on 3 bestials, I was thinking, I would just like slightly more than 3. And also, a nice thing with Sarania that I found in testing is that you could chain block your red ransom. So if you use Bestial Sarania to make your red ransom, you can chain block, go chainlink 1 red ransom to search a spell, chainlink 2 Sarania to send one of the other bestials to graveyard, and that allowed you to effectively chain block your red ransom search against Ash. So that was quite a nice interaction. I also found that if I played 6 or more bestials, I was having situations where I had double Sarania or double Baldrake in hand. And so then I was having some clash with the hard ones per turn nature of the bestial. So having one of each, this just felt like a sweet spot between the two. Bestials felt quite strong in the format, and obviously they pair amazingly with all of your Malice names. So they're kind of like non-engine, but they're also like extenders in this deck. Really, really good. I was happy with the bestial count. Then we have 3 backup at Ignista. This is pretty standard, but in my list, it's even more important to play 3 copies, which is something I'll get onto when we get onto the extra deck. You need the Wizard at Ignista. This is probably the closest thing to a brick in the deck, but you just have to adjust how you play and adjust your combo when you do draw the Wizard at Ignista. So when you do draw the Wizard at Ignista, you're usually just combining it with a name. You usually just change your combo so that you make a Cybus Wicked, and then use the Cybus Wicked to then search the backup, and then go into your Malice combo from there. Yeah, so that usually works out okay if you know how to adjust your combo. Then for the kind of better starters slash placeholders. We've got Allure of Darkness, so this is phenomenal in this deck. Draw 2, and then hopefully you're banishing a Malice name, so then you get to start playing without normal summoning. So yeah, you're going to play 3 of this card in the deck. Then we have 2 Field Spell, because it's at 2. Play a Terraforming and the Gold Sarcophagus. So this is basically another copy of the Field Spell, but it doesn't clash with this in terms of the hard once per turn nature of the Field Spell. Yeah, so those are all the kind of starters in the deck. The spell starters and then all of the names. And then we have an MTP07 and a TB11. We don't play GWC06 in TCG. I did kind of consider it, but I do think that it's still correct, at least in TCG, to just play these two. In Master Duel, where Malice Whitebinder is legal, I do play the GWC06 because in Master Duel, Red Ransom is banned, so I trade a copy of the Field Spell for the GWC06, and I swap the Red Ransom for the Whitebinder when I play this deck in Master Duel. But in TCG, this is correct, and these two are really like the heart and soul of the deck. It's really important to learn kind of, and certainly in me learning the deck, it was really important for me to learn how to pair the trap cards, how to play the trap cards, and to get it into my muscle memory to always set the trap cards when it's appropriate to do so that you can use them with the names to dodge, for example, targeting interaction. But yeah, this is a really fun part of the deck for me to learn because this isn't the typical deck that I'm really used to playing. So yeah, I had a lot of fun learning Malice. I actually lost to Malice quite a lot in YCS Birmingham a couple of years ago, the YCS Birmingham that Dinkabui won with Fire King. So it was a lot of fun this time being the one playing it rather than the one losing to it. In that event, I was playing Striker Tempai, and the deck's incredibly strong still. So yeah, I was really happy to choose to play Malice. So we're going to do a 2026 deck profile. So now I'm going to go into the non-engine slots for the deck. So I decided on 3 Fualos in the main. I feel like the UK meta is very, very diverse, and you need to kind of respect a lot of different decks that you could be paired against. I didn't feel that this was bad even against the best decks, against Branded and against Cool Tune. I felt it was fine. It's okay 6th card against Cool Tune. Yeah, it's okay 6th card against Branded occasionally as well. It performed fine on the day. Nothing really to report. Fualos is Fualos. I also played 2 Droll, so I felt this was necessary as well, just to kind of shut decks off from being able to just combo off to their kind of like Heart's Desire. I feel you do just need something in the deck just to shut people's decks down. This is incredibly good as well when you go first. So having your regular board backed up by Droll, you feel very, very safe. Usually you win those games when you're able to draw into Droll to back up your board. I played 3 Ash. This was mainly for opposing Mulchamis, for just full loss, denying draws, and just for general good coverage into Rogue. The card felt not that great on the day. I felt like against Cool Tune, it just never quite did enough. It was good to hit like Cool Tune Synchro, and there's a lot of things in the Cool Tune deck that you can Ash. Ashing Branded Fusion always feels good, of course, against Branded. But yeah, Ash was fine. It was very solid. I just felt you really, you really need a lot to deal with the big decks nowadays. Most decks in 2026 just aren't passing to a single Ash. It happens. I did definitely end some people's turns with just Ash, but it's a lot rarer than it used to be. So Ash just isn't card it used to be, but it was still very solid and very good against everything. It was very solid over the course of the tournament. Onto an amazing card. So Dominus Impulse was absolutely phenomenal in this event. Yeah, this card is absolutely fantastic. I don't know really what more I can say. Dominus Impulse was absolutely fantastic. I love my my ultimate rares that I have of this card. I bought these ultimate rares. They're super cool. Love the rarity on these. They're really pretty. So yeah, Impulse was fantastic. Absolutely phenomenal. Love this card. It's a huge reason why we choose to play Malice, because we're able to play this amazing non-engine card. Yeah, it really performed well on the day. It was great. And then something that came from my testing was Super Poly. So I think this is a bit non-standard in Malice, and perhaps some people are going to disagree with me on this card choice. But in my testing, my locals has a lot of cool tune and branded, and I just felt that Super Poly was in my side deck for a while, and I felt like I always won the game when I resolved Super Poly. So I was siding in pretty much every match. And so I thought it would give me some edge if I had it in the main deck because it was just so powerful. Even just against decks like Mitsurugi, being able to Super Poly their Mitsurugi names, their Murakumo and whatever other dark monster they have, was just really, really good and really, really helpful. So yeah, I decided to play Super Poly, and I'll show the Super Poly targets when we get to the extra deck. On tournament day, I would say this was kind of like all right. When it was there, it was there. But yeah, obviously my tournament wasn't amazing, so can't really comment too much. But it felt great, and in my testing, it was always phenomenal. So we can only base our decisions based off what we find in testing ultimately. And the last card, obviously, is a Dimension Shifter. Got the new artwork from Rarity 5 that says buy on it. It was great. I saw it statistically just as much as I'd expect to see it. And yeah, I did have a few non-games where I just shifted my opponent, made Crypta with MTP, and then just banished their resources until I eventually won the game. So yeah, this was absolutely fine. I think from playing the deck, I probably do want to play it a little bit more. It was very enjoyable to play. I had a really enjoyable event, I have to say that. So yeah, kudos. Like the deck was really, really fun. And I had a great time at the event. So that's ultimately, what I do the hobby for. I had a great time. So let's get into the extra deck. So I'll just put the main deck together. So for the extra deck, I played one Lingaribo. This is pretty standard. You just need a generic Link 1 to make the Malice names into, and then this also protects you from trap cards. So for example, when you open a Malice name and a Bestial, your combo is normally to normal a Malice name, link it into Ling, and then Bestial target your Malice name to banish and special, then use your Malice name to summon. And the nice thing there is if your opponent has Dominus Impulse, you can negate the Dominus Impulse with the Lingaribo. Equally, if they have Imperm, you can use the Lingaribo to protect your Malice name and, for example, make your Dormouse resolve. So yeah, pretty good. I played the one Link Disciple, so this is also a generic Link 1 for Cyberses, level 4 or lower Cybers monsters, but this one's a light, so crucially that gives you an extra pop from access code, and also it gives you access to Dekotoka Heat Soul, which is another card we play. The next card, we play an Almirage. So this allows us to convert monster hand traps. For example, we play Droll, we play Fualos, and we play Ash Blossom. This allows us to convert monster hand traps in hand into a Cyberse body, and it's also a fire. So that's again access to Heat Soul and hopefully another pop from access code. But yeah, just because we play the Fualos, the Ash, and the Droll, we need to play Almirage so that we have a combo when we open a hand trap and back up at Ignister. Next card is Lizardos. So this card obviously has been played in Malice since the deck came out. It's a Link 2. It's relatively generic and it banishes from graveyard for cost. Usually the effect's not that relevant, but it changes the monster that you banish. It changes the attack of the targeted monster to the attack of the monster that you banish. Okay. So that can occasionally come up, but we typically just use it to activate a Malice name from graveyard. So we'll go make Lizardos, Lizardos effect, banishing the Dormouse, and then Dormouse effect in a new chain, pay 300 to summon back. And then there's our material to make, for example, Red Ransom. That's typically what that card is for. The next two cards in the list, I played 2 copies of Cyber's Wicked. So when I was testing this deck, I just found that this card was absolutely phenomenal. And I felt that this was just one of the strongest cards in the deck. So I always found myself wishing I had another copy of it. And then eventually that is what I ended up going with. So there are some times in my full combo where I would go Cyber's Wicked, then make Heat Soul, and then go back into Cyber's Wicked just to pass on what my usual mid-range end board was just Wicked Crypto pass with Wicked pointing at Crypto and Crypto pointing at Wicked. So now the monsters that Wicked points to can't be destroyed by card effects, and then Crypto, because it points to Wicked, also its effect can't be negated to banish. So this was really nice, and even turn 3, I really wanted to have the second Wicked because a lot of people's interruptions, for example, the Fallen and the Virtuous, were destructions. So I could put 2 Cybus monsters on the field and then make the Cybus Wicked, and then suddenly I have a kind of protective umbrella underneath the Cybus Wicked to assemble my OTK. And that was quite good in my testing, and yeah, it was all right. It performed kind of nice. Perhaps I overvalued it, but it did come up a lot, and it was useful on tournament day. Yeah, people weren't able to destroy my monsters that were underneath the Cyber's Wicked. I just felt that this card was incredibly strong. Also, you can, in your opponent's turn, you can summon a March Hare into one of the zones, or you can summon a Bestial into one of the zones if you get stopped, and then trigger this to banish for cost one of your Malice names in graveyard, which then triggers it, and then the Malice name can summon back. So yeah, I just thought this was an incredibly strong part of the deck. And in testing, this was the card I was enjoying the most in the deck. So I decided to play 2. Malice Q Red Ransom, obviously very important card in the deck. I don't really need to say much about Red Ransom. I also played obviously Hearts Crypto. Nothing much to say. Really important card. It's got a lot of cool effects. Becomes very big. Becomes 5,000 or 5,600 if you use Dormouse effect in the same turn as its effect to summon back. Very good card. Helps you win the game. This is usually what you make under Shifter. I played the Deco Toka Heat Soul. So I'd usually make this from Cybus Wicked and either Almirage or Link Disciple. And then you get a draw from this in your turn, and then hopefully a draw from this in your opponent's draw phase. So being able to draw 2 cards from this, in addition to the draws we get from the Allure of Darkness and the Chessie Cat, just gives us a lot of cards and gives us a lot of opportunity to dig into our really strong non-engine, Super Polymerization, Dominus Impulse, Ash Blossom, and Joyous Spring. That was the theory going into the deck building there. I played the Access Code Talker. Just helps you push for game. Crucially, even if this gets effect veiled or impermed, it can still banish for cost. So you can still banish your Red Ransom and your Hearts Crypto, either or, and trigger them. So that's really worth knowing. A lot of times people will imperm the access code and think they're safe, but then you can effect banish as cost the Crypto, bring back the Crypto. The Crypto's 5,000, and then yeah, you can make a big push with the Crypto and the negated access code. Next card's SP Little Knight. So this card does more in this deck than I would say it does in any other deck, really. So when you get stopped, for example, on your Malice Q Red Ransom, but if you haven't normal summoned, you can... So Red Ransom's negated. You can go, okay, normal summoner for Walos. You can link them off into SP. SP effect, target the Red Ransom to banish it, effect from banish to summon back, and then suddenly you're continuing on your combo. So it's really, really important in this deck. Really useful. You can use it to banish names in graveyard. It can just deal with problematic cards. Very occasionally, you make it as an endboard piece or as an interruption if you get stopped or if you're put into an awkward position. If you open really bad, sometimes you're ending on SP. It's just the way it is. And so lastly now, all the remaining slots in the extra were just my Super Poly targets. So I played Garura, the Wings of Resonant Life. This was originally a Dark the Dark Charmer Gloomy, but I ended up making the space for this. I think this is really, really good. If you're able to make this, and then you can kind of link it off into any of your link monsters, usually something like Red Ransom, and then you get another draw out of it. That's really, really good. Yeah. Mud Dragon, another like generic target. You can make Zaylin Remix into this if you don't want to make Theseus. The next card is obviously Theseus, just to respect the cool tune matchup. But also, a lot of the branded cards are tuners. So Incredible Ecclesia is a tuner, so is Blazing Cartesia. And also, I believe Guarding Quem is also a tuner. So you can catch branded in some weird positions where you can super poly them into Theseus as well. And then the last card in the extra is the Dragon that Devours the Dogma. So this was something that I hope to catch off guard a lot of branded players with the super polymerization, was being able to super poly their boards featuring Fallen of Albaz into this. And even if they tried to poly my board with the Fallen of Albaz effect, I'd be able to chain my own super polymerization and make this instead. And yeah, that did come up quite a lot in my testing. On tournament day, it didn't win me any matches. I actually only paired against one branded in day one. But yeah, it is what it is. Another thing about super polymerization is that you can, in your opponent's turn, you can summon one of the super poly monsters into the Wicked zone and then trigger the Wicked in a new chain. So it's quite a nice way that you can disrupt your opponent, but also play your own deck as well in opponent's turn, which was something I really liked when I was building the deck. So lastly, I'm just going to go through the side deck. So an idea I had for a while was that for this event, I wanted to play Retaliating Sea. So I saw that Draco Tail was gaining popularity, and I really liked having this card for Draco Tail in previous formats. But this idea really came from having a bit of a miserable time in Master Duels. So I've played a lot of Yummy, and Yummy was one of my favorite decks in the last few formats. But when Cool Tune came out in Master Duel, it was very clear that Cool Tune has a fantastic matchup against Yummy. And it's very difficult to play the Yummy deck against Cool Tune, because once they establish Rico, or if they, for example, mix Pop your Snatchy, but once they establish Red Square RS, your levels are increased by 1, so you're not able to make any of your synchro plays that you would usually. So a lot of the common plays I would do with Yummy would require me to make a synchro 2, and that's simply not possible while unnegated RS is on the field. So yeah, I realized that Retaliating Sea was an okay counter against Cool Tune, provided they use one of their spells that summons, so Cool Tune Synchro or Synchro Overtake. So I wanted to have this as an option in the deck, because it essentially post-side gave me 4 copies of Dimension Shifter, and I thought that this card works especially well in the Malice deck, because we can essentially play underneath the Retal and not even have to link it off. The opponent can't activate popular cards such as the Fallen and the Virtuous while they're under Retaliating Sea. And this was just kind of, it was a solid card when I was testing the deck. I would say it didn't perform very well for me on tournament day, but I just didn't see it. Whenever I sided it in, yeah, I just didn't draw it. But I really liked the card, and I liked having the opportunity to play it and play it in a deck that it really synergizes well with. So that was really enjoyable. I played the one Contact C, so I can search the Contact C with the Retail C, and I mainly had this for like, yeah, other decks, like rogue decks. Some decks just simply can't play through this. Sometimes you can catch Cool Tune in an awkward spot where you give them this and they're not able to make anything with it. Originally, I was on 3 copies of this, but in the lead up to the event, I kind of lost faith in it a little bit, and I dialed it down to just 1 copy. I think in hindsight, maybe I'd have liked to try still playing a set and just see how it goes. But I had a lot of fun playing this. I think even if the theory was unfounded, I really enjoyed having this in the list. It was fun. It was great in the testing. The next 5 cards in the list, I played a little power spell package. So I played these 5 spells. And these were mainly for like going second against Cool Tune and Branded. I thought these would be pretty good. I liked having the Raigeki because quite often I'd see very wide boards from these decks with no negates. So I'd quite often find that you could just, at a certain point, Raigeki the Albaz board. And then usually that would cost them quite a lot of their resources. And then it was a lot easier to combo off with my deck. Next, I've got the 3 going first cards, so I went with 3 different Dimension Ground. I'm not sure why other people were playing Dimensional Fissure. I think this card is a lot better. You can chain it. It doesn't lose out to the Lightning Storm and the Harpy's Feather Duster that's in a lot of people's side decks for going second. Yeah, you can just chain this card. It only applies for a turn, and then Yeah, I thought this was a really good card. It did what it's supposed to do. I just sided out my Fuwa losses when I went first for this, and it performed fine on tournament day. And then the last three cards in the extra were Dominus Spark. Usually I was siding these in matchups where Super Poly wasn't very good. This was quite good against things like Doom Z, Power Patron, and things like that. And it was just a very solid card overall. I also sided it in against Cool Tune a fair bit. Um, yeah, it performed solidly. Not amazing. It is just a single banish, which sometimes didn't feel enough. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I'm glad I played it. I'll see how things go with the rest of the format, but I think I'm gonna, keep hold of these and try to play them a bit more. So that's enough for the side deck. So yeah, that is the list. So I'm just gonna put the decks back together. Probably want to put Red Ransom on the top. I want to show the retail. Yeah. I'll probably put the Spark on the top, to be honest. There we have it. So there we go, guys. So that was my national championship Malice list. Obviously, I think one of my main issues, not only obviously I need to improve my deck building, but I think my technical play needs to improve, of course, going forward, which just comes with more practice, more experience. But I had an absolutely amazing weekend. Other players did a lot better than me with the Malice deck, which kind of validates it as a pick. And clearly, I just need some more practice with it. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe. Really helps me out. And hopefully, we can get more content up on the channel. Thank you.